Assalamu alaikum, people listening and watching. You're tuning into the Let's Walk podcast. I am your host, Ataur Rahman. And today I am with Suraj Rao, and he's a copywriter. And that does not mean hypnotizing people with your writing. And he'll get into what it means. And Suraj, thank you for being here. I appreciate you for being on this podcast, despite being a Sunday. And I know that you don't uh, touch like all these gizmos on Sundays.
Yeah, I think I'm really happy that you approached me and you invited me for this podcast. It's an experience for me. I'm very humbled by that. And yeah, I mean anything good, anything valuable, it doesn't matter even if it's a Sunday. So yeah.
No, that's nice. So I want you to maybe start off with um, like we'll start off with a journey where you are like chalo physics padhte hain, and like you said let's get into BSc physics. So how did you go over there instead of being like no, let's do engineering, like the typical thing.
Yeah, I mean that keeps happening, especially that we are Indians, and it's like you're either an engineer or a doctor or nothing, right? I mean, that's the kind of mentality we have. But I think for me, the most important thing was I wouldn't say just curiosity. It is more about am I you know am I enjoying what I'm doing? And now when I say am I enjoying, what I also mean is it letting me grow, right? Or is it like kind of connect, I mean, do I have any kind of connection, deeper connection with what I'm doing, right? Like for example, even with physics, right? Something as simple as I mean, this might now sound very naive, but back then when I was maybe 16, 17 or something, I had I was fascinated with this equation of E equals mc square because I had something like P is equal to mv as well, right? Where we have momentum is equal to mass into velocity and all of that. So I was like, okay, what if I have something like mv square is equal to mc square? What will I get? Because can I do something like that, or does something like that happen and things like that? So I started questioning such things, right? And also I owe it to my teachers who kind of introduced those things in a very interesting way, right? Like when I was in class 10, right? So our teacher took us to the lab and she set up an experiment there, right? And we never knew that that was an experiment at all in the first place, which had a coil, magnet, and a galvanometer, right? So we just played around with it. And then we were asked to write the observations that we made, right? Just about a line or something like that. It was not even a forced thing or a deliberate thing that we had to do. We were given a choice. If we felt like writing what we observed, we could write. Otherwise, we could leave it. So some of us chose to write it, and two things stood out, and those two things were Faraday's laws, right? So from there, my interest started, and from there, I was even able to recognize that slowing down and watching things for themselves, right, is something that I enjoyed the most. And learning new things, right, kind of gave me those opportunities more and more. And also, the other thing I realized with learning is you explore different aspects of yourself, right? So for me, learning equals growth. And that's how I chose physics. And of course, that moment in the lab and that moment with the equations that I was playing around with, right? So I even further went to pursue theoretical physics as well. But then I had to again switch because I realized that while I was working on theoretical physics, I was greatly drawn to classical mechanics, and I even started working with Landau-Lifshitz, which is like a standard theoretical physics book, right? There are 12 volumes of Landau-Lifshitz, but I just started off with the first volume, and then I started realizing, hey, why don't I start weaving stories, right? Like instead of just having mathematical equations and things like that, can I look at this as a story, right? Because all of us connect really well with stories, right? So that was when I was even exploring people like Carl Jung, who's a Swiss analytical psychiatrist, right? And I was very fascinated by the way he was looking at circles and unity, right? So according to him, circles kind of symbolize anything circular or anything that represents a circle symbolizes unity, union, basically. And that's when I had an aha moment, right? So I was also very much interested in coordinate geometry, and that's where I came across this equation, which is yeah, x squared plus y squared equals r squared, which is a circle basically. So r is your radius, right? And I started asking myself, are there similar structures like these in mathematics, which kind of give us the same kind of result, right? And I stumbled upon this. I mean, I was again reminded of this identity, right? Sine squared x plus cos squared x equals 1. And surprisingly, that is also a circle uh, with the radius of 1. And it kind of triggered me, like here was a man who was talking about circle as a symbol of unity, and here is an equation which actually gives me one as as an equation in itself, right? And if I plot it on a graph, say suppose, and I actually I also stumbled upon desmos.com. That's an online plotting software, so it's a basic graph software. So you can just, so suppose you want to see how cos x or a cos wave looks like, you just type y is equal to cos x and you'll get a cosine wave, right?
Wow.
So that's the beauty of technology, right? So once I kind of did that, right? So you can actually even have different coordinates, so polar coordinates and things like that. If people have taken science and their plus two and all of that, we've been bugged with those things, polar coordinates and what nonsense, what all nonsense, right? But here I was on Desmos, and I just simply chose polar coordinates. And when I typed in sine squared x or x squared plus y squared equals 1, I had a circle. And then I
Wow.
realized, oh, we actually do the same thing, right? X equals r cos theta and y equals r sine theta. And I get pendulums, oscillations, and everything. And the entire circle is a periodic thing, right? It's a periodic, beautiful thing. And I also have one. And so basically, I was able to connect. Of course, this was not a deeper, concrete connection, but I was able to find a connection between psychological interpretation and a mathematical equation, right? So that blew my mind, actually.
That's interesting, like I've been like introduced a little bit into Young's work, Man and His Symbols and
Yeah.
Magician, and I think that there's one more book I'm forgetting. So it's like I think he does a little bit of stoicism also. I don't know,
Mm,
maybe.
not come across such things, but I've read Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, which is his autobiography, and Man and His Symbols, of course, and The Undiscovered Self, which is a short essay that he's written about how society and the individual, right, they can exist in harmony, although they appear to be completely polar opposites. They can still exist in harmony, is what he talks about, right? So from there, my curiosity was completely piqued. I mean, my interest just grew even more, and I started even playing guitar. Uh, and there I realized that oh, even music has very similar aspects of such kind, right?
Wow.
So it was just a journey of exploration for me, and I mean, even today, like if I find something that I can explore the same way I explored in psychology or the concepts of psychology or mathematics and physics, I'm drawn to it.
So you've been playing the guitar consistently, or like how much time did it take to learn the guitar?
So, I mean, that's a very good question. I did play it for a while, and then now I've been playing it intermittently. So I've not been consistent with it. But I'm more drawn towards the Indian classical style of music, typically Carnatic, and I'm also drawn more towards jazz. And I also kind of so we can break down like the musical chords that we play, and we can add flavors to it, right? So that's the kind of thing that I'm exploring as of now. So sometimes I do it on the guitar, or sometimes I do it on a piece of paper, and then I try figuring that out on the guitar, right?
Like, did you start learning the octaves and like the sa re ga ma pa
Yeah,
before
yeah, yeah.
before
I did. I did enroll myself for a class, but then it was more about, yeah, it was Sare Gama Pada Nisa or C major scale, right? So it is C D E F G A B and C, right? And after that, it was more about Bollywood songs and playing solos of Bollywood songs and all of that. But I was not satisfied with that. I just wanted to know something more, right? So one of the questions I asked was, instead of just playing C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, if I play something like D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, how would that sound? Would it still be the same scale? And would it still give the same feel and things like that? So that's where I realized I was slowly entering into exploring the scale modes, right? So, like how we have different rags or ragas in Indian classical music, be it Hindustani or Carnatic, we do have complete different scales even in western thing, but we are very familiar with major scale and minor scale. But there are like so even if you take major scale, right, there are 7 different modes, right? So once I played that, right, so D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, I think after about 3 months I realized that I had to play something called a Dorian scale or a Dorian mode, right? So from there, I was even more fascinated, and I then asked, okay, instead of D to D, if I play E to E, what would happen then, right? So I completely explored the scale like that, and then I asked myself, hey, if this is how it is, can I find equivalent ragas or scales, from Western to Indian music? And that's when I realized that, for people that are familiar with Carnatic, there's this raga called Charukeshi, right, which is actually the Western equivalent of Mixolydian flat six. So that's the kind of connections I started finding, and I was again, thrilled to go further and further. And then I realized, so I don't need to play all 7 notes all the time. I can just choose, say, the second note, the sixth note, and the seventh note, and I can play variations in that. That's when I realized I was slowly entering into jazz. So, for, like if you were to use technical jazz terms, we would call it as ninths, 13ths, and the sevenths. And even instead of the fourth, mad, ma, right? Sa, re, ga, ma. In jazz, we call it as the 11th. So, right, something like that. It's called sharp 11 in the Western scale. That is a typical blues note, right?
now that's enticing me to pick up guitar or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful, like if you look at each and everything from a question that kind of intrigues you, right? That is all that you need to learn anything at all. But the problem with most mass kind of learning, right? I'm not saying it shouldn't happen or whatever, but the drawback with that is all of us are lost in terms of getting results,
Mm,
right? Like, for example, be it in your school or anywhere, right? Like you're in your 10th standard and you need to score marks. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but then if that becomes the highest priority, right, then you would miss out on enjoying the journey, right? I mean,
wow.
it's been a struggle even for me as well. Like I've always been afraid of taking up exams or writing competitive exams and all of that. I've had sleepless nights and I've had frustrations of my own and all of that. But I think that was very much necessary for me to understand and realize the value of pure learning.
Yep. I
So
think the point where like, or I think the idea where we are like chasing behind like those marks and those competitive exams, those ranks, the very
mhm.
essence of learning, the curiosity, that is being massacred and maimed
Yeah,
during this entire process. And
yeah,
I don't want to like throw dirt at the schools and everything, because I myself am educated because of those schools.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think that there's like a change which is to be done. And I think with the online thing happening, I think like kids are trying to explore more of those, specifically with online thing, people are trying to show illustrations, give, examples and everything. I
Yeah.
think that might be, thus very spark for the revolution, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, true, true. I think, like, if we just, like blame schools or blame education system and, just leave it at that, I don't think we would be doing much as a human race, right? Because even our own teachers, right, even they have been trained in such a system, right?
True.
So one of the things is, one of the things I feel is more of looking at introducing narratives, right? Now, when I say narratives, right, like for example, stories that people can connect with. Like I'll give you an example from one of my works that I did, right? So even before coming into, even before trying content and copywriting, I worked as a guest faculty at a college, and I was teaching English at an engineering college, right? That's the emphasis. It was an engineering college, and I was there teaching English. So the moment I entered the class, right, a lot of people thought, okay, so this is English, and I'm going to just chill around, and it's only going
Phonetics.
to be about grammar, past tense, present tense, and it's done with that, right? But one of the most surprising things was I kind of knew that because even I was in that phase, right? So I mean, for us, English during our bachelor's was very different. During my BSc time, was very different. We would sit and listen to songs from Bob Dylan and all of that, and then analyze how it represents a particular form of culture and how do we represent that through language. So something like that, like we kind of had such exposure to English. I mean, that was so when I entered the class, I didn't even talk anything about English. I just started out with puzzles and something completely irrelevant to the English classes and all of that. And I precisely did that because I wanted to understand those people, right? I wanted to understand the students as individual people, right? Individual persons, because each student is a human being again, and they have their own likes, dislikes. And once you know that, you'll be able to better connect with them, right? And as time went by, I started, infusing things from, say, Friends, Big Bang Theory, and all of that, the Big Bang Theory, and all of that. And I started talking about how communication would have been fun if it were to be some other thing, right? So, when I was talking about body language and all of that, I would literally, sometimes talk to someone like that, down and go on talking. And then I would ask them, how do you feel? Right? How do you feel if your teacher stands here and, starts talking something like that, starts talking of your way and all of that, right? And there was this one instance where I just went and I said, hey, Macha, can you be quiet? Or can you just keep quiet? They were shocked. Right? They were shocked that, not exactly Macha or something. I did use something like that. And there was a bit of surprise element. And then I said, so if we use such words in official communication, imagine how it would be like, you're reporting to your team lead at your workplace, and you write something like, hey, Mach, I'm on leave today, or something like that, right? How strange would that be, right? Or even for the principal, right? Hey, dude, I'm on leave, or something like that. Hey, dude, I need some. You can't use such words. So how do you decide what words to use, or how do you decide how to write something, right? So of course, I knew I had to talk about business communication or even formal communication, all of that, right? Instead of starting off with, hey, so this is the structure of a letter, and you write salutations there, and this is the body of the text, and all of that. You start giving them context, right? And you start building that context from whatever they are familiar with, or whatever the. So when I say they, right, whatever a person who intends to learn, right, is familiar with, right? Now, when you approach learning like that, or when you approach teaching learning systems of that kind, it is going to have a deep impact even on you as well, as a person who facilitates that learning, because you need to keep updating yourself in terms of the context and the kind of things that the other person is familiar with, right? So you expand your own knowledge base, and you also kind of change as a person because you become more empathetic, right? And it's not just about information overload or information outpour out there, right? And so a lot of it goes without saying, right? With pure form of intense learning, there has to be curiosity that comes first, right? And for that curiosity, what I feel personally is that stories or building right contexts, right, does the job of inculcating curiosity. So once you know that a particular person is curious about something, the teaching ends there, or the like the person who wants to learn something is on his or her own way, right? So that is something that always drives me, no matter where I am, right? Let's say I'm doing something in terms of physics, or let's say I'm doing something as a content writer, or let's say I'm doing something as a teacher or anything like that, right? That is something that drives me.
I used to read those preface in the NCRT textbooks, and just to see, like what are they writing in these pages. I've never opened these books, so they said something along the lines of, teachers are not there for mere exchange of information. They are uh, there for students as joint learners in the journey, and
Yeah.
someone to facilitate. And I find this like really fascinating, where teacher is similar to enlightenment. Like, teacher cannot give you the entire knowledge. Like, they might show you the way, but you have to do it on your own, that sort of thing. uh,
Mhm.
yeah, and like the role of facilitator that a teacher plays, I think it's really important, rather than being like, I have all the information in my cerebral cortex, and I want to uh what do you say,
Dump
that
it.
dump it in
Yeah.
your cerebral cortex, so that you can dump it in someone else's cerebral cortex
I
and
mean,
get the rank.
I think we have pen drives for that, right? For that dumping. Pen drives and memory cards. I think we humans are not for that.
Yeah, and that's, I think, that's where, when a teacher, with all those experiences, and then there's this uh, kid with this clean slate, and then they come together. It's like, the teacher, like the student teaches the teacher something, and then the teacher, like, that's like a joint process.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I remember one of my friends, he was having an interview with one of the teachers that was leaving our school, and he said something along the lines, like, he asked him, like, what is one thing that you have learned from the kids? And I was shocked. I was like, I think it should be the other way around, right? Aren't teachers supposed to, like, that's the only thing we learn, right?
Yeah.
But that teacher was really old, like, I think in his 80s, and he was like, I learn a lot of things from students, and it's not like most people think it's only one way, and sort of like he was talking about ego and everything. I was like, this is deep. Like,
Yeah.
like not a lot of people want to talk about this, like being teachers and everything. And I think it's like a vulnerable moment for them to say, like, no, I'm actually learning a lot from you guys, like your culture
Mhm.
and everything.
Mhm.
Is the
Yeah.
connection good? Like, just tell me, like, are you able to do that, like by listening a song without the notes and everything, you're able to pick up your guitar and do this like, just play the guitar?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have perfect pitch. I wouldn't say that, but I'm able to, like when I listen to a song and I try to play it on my guitar, right? I know which scale it is in, and what are the major notes being used, like what are the repetitive notes being used, and all of that. But so when it comes to pitch perfect hearing, right? So I'm always reminded of this person called the Do. So he has a YouTube channel, right? And he's like, he's just amazing with his guitar. So he listens to a song and he plays the entire song. So like even the lyrics and even the music, right? So everything comes out there. But for me, it's more like I can play it within the scale. I cannot add the embellishments and the styles and all of that. But yes, I can play the I can play it within the scale, and people would be able to recognize. Okay, I think he's playing this song, right?
uh,
So yeah.
I've seen one of the doctors, he used to do this. I think that's Yazan, Dr. Yaz. He used to, he's a big doctor on the social media. So
Hmm.
he's been into piano since his teens, I guess. And he does this crazy thing where he listens to any Arabic song or like any song, and without any musical notes, he's able to play it on the piano.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean that's the beauty of how human minds are adaptable, right? Adaptable and adaptable, right? I mean, yeah,
So with that, I want to
it's just
slide into how you were introduced or how you dived into copywriting, and like tell people like that's not about hypnotizing people.
yeah. Actually, I think a lot of people think uh, copywriting is about just selling things and all of that. Of course, it does sell things, but it's also very important to be very authentic in what you write, and it's very important to maintain your integrity, right? Because one of the things that you do as a writer, forget about copywriting or content writing or anything, right? But as a writer, right, you are there to establish trust with your readers, right? Be it say a story or like a blog piece or even a marketing copy or anything like that, right? Basic purpose of writing is to establish a connection of trust with your readers, right? That is the most fundamental thing about writing. And although I mean, I was hired as a copywriter and all of that. I have not written many marketing copy or even sales copy or anything like that. I've never done that at all, right? The closest thing that I've done to copywriting is social media copywriting. So basically, the most attractive things that you see on Instagram and yeah, basically on Instagram and things like that, or so to give perspective to a lot of people about copywriting, say social media copywriting, if most of them have, if you guys have seen Zomato, right? So if you look at their tweets and all of that, it's very, to use that phrase, it's very catchy. It kind of, makes you want to stop scrolling and makes you want to read, right? So that's what a copy does, right? But there are different types of copywriting, say direct response or even sales copy, email copy, and all of that. So it's basically about helping a customer make a very informed decision about buying something. And when it is a genuine copy, when the customer who decides to buy something based on a copy is satisfied after purchase, right? If a customer feels that, hey, I have been deceived and it's simply like window dressing that I read, then that copy is not authentic at all, and that's not copywriting. That's simply selling some forceful selling. That's all I would say. To talk about how I got into content or copywriting was, during the first wave of COVID, once the colleges and everything closed down, I had to find a job, right? And that's when I thought, why not give a try for content writing? And I thought it was all about writing blogs, right? But when I started off at like the startup that I worked at, that's when I realized it's more than just about writing blogs. It's more about informing people, and it's more about understanding uh, about something. Say, suppose I'm writing about say a laptop or a mouse, right? It's more about understanding what that particular product is and how it's going to benefit a person, and what like those things, right? So that's how I started off. And when I started writing, a lot of people really enjoyed reading it, and that kind of gave me confidence to explore that further. And that's when I started reading Joe Sugarman's The Ad Copywriting. So I was very happy when I bought that book, and it kind of gave me deeper insights into the very process of copywriting and all of that. That's what helped me understand that there's a difference between content writing and copywriting. So content informs people. Copy basically markets a particular product or a service. So, like for example, if you read something like, say, let's say you're talking about this mouse, and you read uh, how a mouse works, right? Or how this particular brand has been there and things like that. It's more about content, right? It's informing you about what that particular product is, or what a mouse is, or what a mouse does. But if there is like a piece which kind of motivates you to buy the mouse, right? Say suppose you have something like, I'm just giving a very vague example, this is not how a copy would be. So if you have come across something like it's end of season sale, or something like that, right, where you feel like buying it, that's a copy, right? Not all copy is content. Sorry, I'm sorry, I I got that wrong. Not all content is copy, but all copy is content,
Yep.
right?
Like,
So
so how and what does the morning routine, or like how do you start your day? Do you like just get out of the bed and be like, my mind is fresh and I want to write those 4 A4 pages, like most writers do, and uh,
mhm.
and try to do that? How does your day-to-day life look like?
So yeah, up until like the last month or so, 1 month ago, right? I was following a routine where I would wake up early in the morning, and I would read. I would read a book, again based on writing, and I would also start, copy working. So copy working is a technique where you look at master copywriters and their samples, or even content writers and their samples, and you pick up a book and a pen, and you start writing it by hand, and then you kind of underline and note down things. I mean, that's how I would do it. I would mark interesting points, or interesting sections, and I would ask myself why I found this interesting, and how can I implement this particular form of model into my own writing and things like that, right? So I would do that from say 5 to 7 in the morning, and then I would go for a walk, right? So I still do it when I find time. I go for a 4 kilometer walk or something like a long walk, and then that's how I would start my day. And mostly I would spend time reading. That's something that I love doing all the time.
It was more sort of like a monastic kind of thing, so that it's like mastering the craft and chipping away the pieces, that sort of thing, where you're trying to improve.
Yeah, that was something that I was doing, and as I said, I would read from Joe Sugarman's Adweek copy, and then I would make notes, and then see if I can write a copy. Or he in his book he has given a lot of examples of direct response copy. Of course, I've never written a direct response copy professionally, so I would write down those copy, and then look at mm, what kind of models are used. So, for example, I also follow Gary Bencivenga. He's one of the most well-known, best copywriters in the US, right? So he started talking about. So there was this very interesting headline he had used. So these two words. I'm not exactly paraphrasing it. It was something like. Okay, these are the two most important words in sales, and it's not free and hurry up. So I was like intrigued. Okay, then what else, right? And then he had used this word called if and then, right? So he gave a lot of examples of how headlines which use if and then model, right, kind of grab more attention, right? Like for example, let's say you have like you have a client who's conducting classes for 1 hour on healthy breakfast or something like that, right? So you can write something as simple as classes on healthy breakfast 1 hour for 1 hour or something like that. Or if you use this if and then model, right, you could write something like if you have an hour, then your body will thank you for ever and ever and ever. So that would be the main headline, and the sub headline would be because something interesting is cooking for this morning, right? So yeah, I would practice such models, so basically systems and models of that kind. So I would write headlines. I would read micro interviews. So Eddie Schleiner is another very good copywriter. He's a brilliant copywriter. So he interviews a lot of people, a lot of copywriters and creative people. So he's also interviewed Nikhil Narayanan, who's a senior creative director at Ogilvy. So he interviews them and he asks them about their learning journey, right? And how they learned and did all of those things. So I would read those micro interviews, make notes out of those. There were also book recommendations. I mean, anybody can go and check it out. The website is very good copy. And you can check under the tab called micro interviews. So it's about 200-word interview or 400 to 600 max, right? So it's generally between 250 and 300 words, and at max it reaches up to 600 words. And it's a beautiful platform for anybody who wants to learn copywriting and all of that. You kind of meet a lot of meet as in like you read their micro interviews and you get to know about them about a lot of copywriters and creative people. So that's how I was spending my mornings before. And now with this new place and new job, I've been taking some time to kind of get in tune with what I was doing before.
So I'm just curious about, like I've thought about this thing where, you know, up first thing in the morning, you're the most creative, and I try to force the juice out of my brain, basically, meaning, try to get my creative ideas instead of, coming in contact with any book, any like mobile phone or something like that. So I just start working right off the bat, and that's where I get new insights and other things. And on the other hand, if I consume something instead of like produce, my brain sort of takes a back seat, and it's like slowly the disease of consuming begins. And it's like reading a book, and then a YouTube video, and then it's like a movie, and then the whole day goes like a different place. And do you find yourself like going down that rabbit hole, or do you start off your day by activities which are more like producing oriented instead of like consuming, or how do you see those things?
So I've always consumed actively in the morning. Counter to, contrary to a lot of popular belief and popular practice. Sorry, not belief, popular practice. So one of the things that has really helped me from going down the rabbit hole of binging and consumption is having a proper objective, right? If I'm consuming something, I make sure that I have a proper objective of why I'm doing it, right? So I would pick up a piece of paper and write down. If I'm reading a micro interview, right, I would write down, okay, I want to read these things in this micro interview because I want to know what kind of books these people are reading or these people have read, or what kind of challenges this particular person has faced and how did that person overcome that challenge. And even with respect to copy working, right, it was more of slowing down in the process of writing so that I was able to focus on how the pen, my hand, and the pen touching the paper feel like, right? So I would do such things more of. And of course, while browsing the internet, I made sure that there was only one tab open, and it was the only tab that I was reading.
uh,
Right?
I
So
unconsciously started doing this thing recently, where about the one tap thing. I
yeah,
didn't mean to interject, but yeah, I can continue.
yeah, that's what I mean. So for whenever we feel like, oh, what if I, mindlessly consume something, or, I slip off into YouTube or Facebook or something like that, it's very important to define an objective, right? And it's very important to stick to that, because once you stick to the objective, right, the kind of confidence that comes in you is like terrific, because you have committed yourself to something and you stick to that commitment all through the process, right? And that's, I think, resilience at best, right? Because I mean, for me, it would recharge me and instill strength in me to believe in myself, in terms of, say, like, hey, so even if the world might disturb me with its constant chattering and all of that, this entire practice session, right, would actually give me a direction. It's more like, you wake up every morning and you just practice a few exercises in the gym. Initially it does not make any sense, but over time, when it compounds, its influence and impact on your body, right? It was exactly like that for me with this particular practice, where there was even significant change in the way I approached writing, and even my writing itself changed. And I mean, I've even gotten feedback where a lot of people in my previous company told me that I've really improved in my writing, right? So that was because I was able to you know deeply practice the masters. So when I say deep practice, I mean, one of the very beautiful books on this particular thing is The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, and even Deep Work by Cal Newport. Of course, Cal Newport goes into certain other deeper aspects as well, apart from deep practice. But if anybody wants to know more about deep practice and those things, I would strongly suggest that you check The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. So that is one thing, and also I was following some of the masters in the skill that I wanted to master, right? Like, for example, this copywriting. I seriously follow Eddie Schreiner and Dina Kalakovich and those people. So I would take their words and follow it uh, to its fullest, right? So one of the things Eddie always suggests is that we pick up a master and practice their work. We just imitate their work. We should not be thinking of course, like there were other mentors that I met who also said the same thing. They also said that, we should really not worry about being original initially, because we are slowly, kind of making ourselves familiar with a particular skill. And once we start completely copying the masters, of course, you're not supposed to publish that anywhere, because it's going to be a copyright issue, and you're not. I mean, it's really not fair to steal somebody's hard-earned work and hard-earned efforts, right? So take a book, and I'm talking about copywriting itself, right? Take a book and write it down, write down the masters, and maybe after about, say, 100 copy or 100 such copy working, you'll be able to slowly start asking meaningful questions and reflect in a meaningful way, and then your writing will definitely change, right? So for example, if you're practicing music, right, just start imitating, of course, if you do not have a teacher, that is, just start imitating your favorite artists or your favorite song, and then right, what is the secret behind it, and then start making your own notes on that, right? Start writing down your own notes and start improvising that music, right? That's how you basically learn. And even while I was playing chess, that's how I went into that, right? So I was just playing chess, to be very honest, to use that phrase, right, for time pass. But then after I played a lot of games that way, I realized, wow, even this is an art, and I can look at people like, say, Paul Morphy and such people. So Paul Morphy is one of the most sought after player, like Bobby Fischer and all of those guys. But I think Paul Morphy was active in the 18th, 19th century or so, like that. So I started observing their games and all of that, and I started observing certain types of openings and all of that. And you will know by say the 100th time that you're doing it. Of course, with chess, I never did it the 100th time, but with whatever you're learning, you will know it by the 100th time that whether you're interested in that or not interested in that at all, right? If you're interested in that, you'll automatically start asking interesting questions about the skill that you're learning, right?
Mm.
And you'll slowly even start understanding the structures of that skill, right? So yeah.
So
So to
like
summarize, yeah, that is what, like repeating the masters and defining your objective will actually help you kind of grow immensely, and not you'll not feel that you're going somewhere and you're losing direction, right? Yeah.
something that I'm curious about is like it's a popular debate, right? Like, is it nature or is it nurture? So what do you think about your skill? Do you think you're always born with that copywriting thing, or do you think it's like the deliberate practice day in day out that that sort of like nurtured? Everybody has that basic level of talent, and you think you nurtured it a little bit more than the others, and that's why it's like more profound? Or like, how do you think about that?
Mm, I think it's more of if we change our perspective a bit, right? So from just asking whether it's nature versus nurture, if we look at it as as a function of choice, right? Now, let's say you kind of make a take a decision that you want to practice or master, say copywriting or anything, any skill for that matter, right? Day in and day out, do you still choose to do that? Do you still choose to authentically choose to master it, right? That is the basic question that you need to be asking. So let's say we'll take a very common example of weight loss, right? A lot of us actually want to lose weight, and we kind of sometimes like are successful and sometimes we fail in that, right? So if suppose, let's say your objective is losing weight, right? One of the easiest ways, I'm not saying this is the only way, but one of the short ways that is going to actually kind of take you forward, right, is to choose that decision of losing weight every moment, right? Because it is what you do in that in that particular moment that decides your weight. Like, so for example, let's say one of the toughest things, right, is to fight the craving that we have when it comes to weight loss, right? Like, you look at that, say, burger or a samosa, and you want to eat it, right? Of course you still can, but then are you aware of the choice that you're making,
Ah,
right? And within that every moment, and I'm not saying you need to use your willpower or all of those things. If you can, if you are successful, go ahead with that. But the other way is like, if you can take a moment and focus on the choice that you've made, or the commitment that you've made to yourself, it'll kind of help you align your actions with what you want to achieve, right? That is the beauty of being human, because of course nature and nurture does play a part, right? Nurturing definitely plays a role, but the privilege of being human is the choice,
wow.
right? And that accelerates the process of nurturing.
Phenomenal. So for people who are listening, I hope you guys are taking notes, because he's dropping some wisdom over here. And
It's
uh,
I think, yeah, I mean, if it's
yeah,
insightful, we definitely do take notes, or yeah.
because I'm writing over here. So if you're listening or watching this in future, I suggest you take notes and like reflect. It's like if you just watch an episode and don't take anything from it, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we need to always be aware of is the privilege of choice we have as human beings, right? that is the beauty of it.
I'm conscious of the time and everything. With this, as we conclude, I want to move into the perspective questions, and it's like the 5 questions I asked, or
Mhm.
actually, it were three, and I made it five, just so that it looks cool and everything.
Mhm.
So, so should I call it the perspective, or like the perspective questions? And so the first question is, what is the best advice and the worst advice you have ever received?
Mm, the best advice that I've received is to focus on the action that I take, right? And the worst advice, not able to recall of any such worst advice. So, one of the things I've seen is sometimes we need to be aware of when people are talking to us, because sometimes they may be talking out of their fear or their limitation, and sometimes we kind of impose that on ourselves, right? That is something that I would say we need to be aware of. But the best advice I have received is, of course, I sometimes do often worry about the future and all of that. But during those times, the best advice I've received is, okay, just focus on what you can do today, right now, and just focus only on that, and it's going to change the quality of what is going to happen in the next moment. And it does work, like if we are able to focus on, say, suppose, let's say we have an exam in 3 months, rather than like completely freaking out about the marks and all of that, if we can focus on just like sitting for half an hour and um, like practicing, say, 2 or 3 important questions that come for the exam, it's going to change our outcome in a very different way, right? So focusing on the present moment and the action that we take in that present moment, I think that's the best advice I've received.
I think this sort of aligns with the verse from Bhagavad Gita. It's like you're not entitled to the fruits. You're only entitled to the, like, your only duty is the action, and you should be detached from the fruits of the action, and something along those lines. And that kind of reminds me of that.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's really important, where we have high intentions but low attachment to things, and that sort of like we internalize all these marks and all these sort of things. And I
Mhm.
think it's really key, especially for those people in school, uh, to have high intentions and like be really intentional about the actions that you're taking, but have
Mhm.
low attachment towards these things, and affect your mental health and on the and all those sort of things. The second question I have for you is, if you
Mhm.
could go back in time, 5 years, 10 years back in time, what would you do
Mhm.
differently? Or what would you say to the younger Suraj?
I would say, hey, you can chill out. You don't need to worry so much about what's going to happen in the next 5 years, or if I'm going to settle down in life, or if I'm going to have a job or anything like that. I would say stop worrying about those things, and enjoy being a student, or enjoy what you can do as as someone who's growing up, than just thinking about, oh, whether I'm going to settle down in life, I'm not going to settle down in life, because what if I'm left behind, things like. So I would say stop worrying less. Sorry, stop worrying more. Like, yeah. So I would say that, like.
So the third question is this sort of from Tim Ferriss's book. So if you could have one notification, since we are all in our houses, that people could see everything first day in the morning, what would that notification say?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, actually. Mm, I don't know. I need to think. Maybe something like, write down your goals for the day, or not just for the day. Write down your goals for the growth, or something like that. Or what are your goals for today? Something like that.
Interesting. uh, I asked this question to Yatram, and he was like, yeah, be grateful, just because, like, being alive, is like such an opportunity, or should I say a privilege, because I mean, like the past week or so, I've seen like a lot of people pass away. Like I was going to the mosque and everything, so it's like crazy. And
Yeah.
this sort of reminded me, it's like sometimes we can take things for granted. Like,
True, true, true. I think even that as a morning notification would be great. It's like, if you have a notification which says celebrating, it's just amazing that way, and it is really sad that we've lost so much of like people and all of that due to the pandemic. And I think being alive is something that we all have to be grateful for.
so my fourth question is, if you could meet three people, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Mm, I think I would meet Buddha, the Buddha, right? Because I mean, I love the way the calmness that the Buddha has, right? And I would want to learn more about that from the Buddha. And the second person would be Albert Einstein, right? Because I mean, I really love the way his perspectives about knowledge, learning, and growth is just brilliant, right? So that is something that I would want to pick up from Albert Einstein. And I don't know, the third person. Um, I mean, I should just. I don't know. I'm not getting any as of now. Uh, Maybe someone like. Oh yeah, I think I would like to meet Jiddu Krishnamurti, because I mean, a lot of things that he has spoken of uh, is too complex. I mean, at first it appears very complex to understand, and sometimes it may even appear meaningless. But the more we spend time with his works and with his talks, it kind of gives that feeling that he has deeper insights about the nature of life, right? So, yeah, those would be the three people: the Buddha, Albert Einstein, and Jiddu Krishnamurti.
I guess I have his book. I started reading a couple of pages, but then I was like, I don't know what he's talking about, and then I
Yeah,
had to get the book back.
yeah, yeah. I know. I mean, sometimes he even negative and cynical. But I think we need to keep going back. At least for me, I feel like I need to keep going back and reading and see what if he makes sense and what kind of sense does he make and things like that. Somehow I'm intrigued by his ideas.
Mm. So I guess the last, I mean, not the last, but the question, the final question I have for you is, what is that impact that you want to leave on this planet Earth?
Mm, yeah, that is something that I have been, like asking myself. And one of the things that has really stood out for me, or as an inspiration, is uh, I want to, be a teacher figure. So when I say teacher, I don't mean like a school teacher or a professor or something like that. Like I want to use teaching as a way of life. So what do I mean by that is uh, I I want to learn as much as possible about as many things as possible. And when I meet new people, or when I meet a person who's kind of wanting to learn the same skill set or something related, something that the person is learning, if I can facilitate that person to kind of explore it in a more deeper way, and where that person's life is impacted in a positive way, right? So I would like to have a network of mentors and a network of learners. So basically, if I can create a very big learning community, right? So when I say learning community, I don't just mean with academics or anything. Like life throws a lot of challenges, right? And we need to learn a lot of things, to cope with those challenges. So if I can create a network of that kind, where all of us feel involved and included, right, in that learning network, to be stronger and to you know use all our mental faculties and our emotional faculties to kind of make our lives better for ourselves. That would be the thing for me. So
Okay.
basically, if people start feeling that, okay, I can learn this, or I can learn that, or I can learn anything, right? Then I would feel very content for being here on Earth.
That's such a noble goal,
Yeah.
like especially with things like we can keep academics at like on the side because like all the education companies have done the job of making
Yeah.
academics easy, but like there are more finer aspects of life. When
Mm.
somebody is going through something, some depression or something, they might have a bad score mark, they didn't get the seat, now they're trying to do something else. I think this where like people can make things a little more simpler and be like, bro, just chill, it's life. And you know
Yeah.
sort of like make like I think people who go through the similar experiences, they are able to relate. And if we have that sort of community, I think that would be more phenomenal, instead of where sometimes people are giving out advices, but it's like, bro, you haven't been through that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
before we,
to
yeah, yeah.
like have a concrete, simpler understanding of it, I would still use the academic example itself. It's easier to understand that way, right? So suppose, let's say, someone wants to learn programming and computer programming, right? So but they try learning it, and they kind of have they kind of face a difficulty, or someone says something negative and they feel blocked to do that, right? So if I would like to learn that programming language, and then meet that person, and then spend time with that person, so that the block is kind of removed, and the person feels empowered to explore the programming language by themselves, right? So basically, awareness and the choice that comes out of awareness, right? That is what I would love to be a part of, the awareness of the conscious awareness of being able to learn and being able to grow, right? Even though life throws multiple challenges at us, right? Like, for example, the challenge with that coding thing would be the mental block because of someone who said something negative, right? But if I can it's not like I want to go and do it, but if in our codependent presence, if the person feels that hey, I'm not limited by what person X said, or what person X said negatively, I can still learn, I can still master programming. So likewise, different challenges of life, I can learn things and I can master those challenges, right? If I'm able to bring in that kind of you know I don't know what to call it, whether state, mindset, or whatever, but that kind of experience within at least two or three people, right? Or at least just two people, I would feel very content with myself.
So before we wrap up, Suraj, is there anything you have in your heart that you want to share with people on this podcast before we wrap up? Is there any message, any insight, final words?
Mm, I don't know what to say. Maybe, like all of us, uh, all of us will actually, you know, all of us will definitely grow, and we do grow out of our challenges and our rejections, failures. And I think the thing that helps us sail through that is compassionate resilience. And it's that kind of resilience that kind of helps us become better, become bigger and grow better. So even if you have failures, or like multiple rejections and all of that, please do keep uh, have hopes and keep working at what you want to achieve. Right? It's more about what kind of person we become or what kind of people we become with our commitments and resilience, more than how fast we achieve the result.
Mm. I think this like really important with resilience and everything. Uh, I think there's a book by Ross Edgley. That guy swam the Great, I think the river around the Great Britain, or like he swam across the Great Britain. So, and he talks about resilience and everything. And I think the point where you mentioned about compassionate resilience, where sometimes people can push us, but it's not in the most appropriate way, that might hinder our
Mhm.
growth.
Yeah. So sometimes, like, of course, this has worked, like, where we have, when we think of discipline and all of that, most of the times we get the idea of, punishment and strictness and rigorous things, and where we are not empathetic, where we don't show empathy for ourselves, and we just say, we need to push ourselves. We just need to go ahead and do it. Like, we use phrases like, I just need to kick myself and do it, and things like that. But sometimes you can also say, hey, it's okay. I will try now. I can do it once again. You can show some compassion for yourself and try it, right? Of course, I do know that a lot of people who are watching this or who are listening to this might have undergone a lot of challenges, which I might not even be able to imagine. But yeah, I think the compassionate resilience is what at least for me, in my own limited experience, I'm stating it again, in my limited experience, I feel compassionate resilience will definitely help us with, growth and whatever we intend to achieve.
Perfect. So on that note, guys and girls, love to wrap up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, took your notes, and you guys know what to do. Stay blessed, keep taking action, and I'll catch you in the next one.